Untitled here, and today I'm fortunate enough to be able to present you guys with some early access battle footage for Warhammer 3 for the Battle of the Brass Citadel, which is Kislev versus Khorne. So this battle here has a lot of kind of confusing complications with it, but I'll do my best to go through it. Now the first thing to understand is that normally I would play the game on my own computer and record my commentary live as I'm doing the battle, but that wasn't the case for this. I wasn't able to download the build onto my computer. Instead, I had to connect to somebody else's computer remotely and sort of like hijack their computer from my end and play it, of course with their permission. And what this did was, when I was playing the battle, it was extremely blurry. It was like 240p, and there was quite a lot of ping because it was like all the way around the other side of the world. So all of my movements were quite significantly delayed. It was a bit tricky to get used to at first, but I got used to it at the end. This footage here is me playing the battle. Keep that in mind. Alright, now the other thing to keep in mind is that there was only one difficulty setting. Okay, I wasn't able to bump it up or drop it or anything like that. And the only way that I could describe the battle difficulty is super duper easy baby mode. Basically like tutorial. So if you're watching this battle and thinking these guys are going down way too quickly, that's exactly what I was thinking as it was going on too. So these are blood letters of Khorne that we're dealing with in this first part here. Now this first wave is not super important. We'll go through it all eventually. But they've only got like 1,500 health compared to our guys, which have like 5 times as much health. So I imagine that they made this particular battle significantly easier than what it will be when you guys get a hold of it, regardless of what difficulty you're playing on. Largely, I think, for the media journalists, because most of us are, I would assume, fairly seasoned Total War player. At least say like 20 hours in it, right? But a lot of the journalists might not have had any hours at all played in Total War games, and Total War can be very confusing if you're not already familiar with it. And this is supposed to be one of the most difficult battles that you can fight in your campaign. So I imagine they bumped down the difficulty significantly just so that the journalists were even able to win it. So with that out of the way, we got to keep that in mind, that the way that my units perform should not be an indication of how they will perform when you guys get a hold of it, okay? What we want to be looking at in this video here is instead the actual survival battle, what you can expect from the survival battle, and just get a bit of a look at what units are coming for Kislev and Khorne, I suppose, without really having any like concrete indication of how they actually perform. Our units are going to seem way stronger than Khorne's, but just gotta. It won't likely be like that in the final build. All right, so in terms of this survival battle, the context of it is that you are in your campaign and you're about to finish Khorne off. You're in the Chaos realm, in Khorne's Chaos realm, and you've pushed him back to his last settlement or region. I don't know if he's going to have settlements or whatever, but this is like the final battle against Khorne. This isn't like a siege rework. This isn't like what all siege battles are going to be like from now on. This is something that might just be unique to the main Warhammer 3 campaign. It's possible that the Mortal Empires variation might not even have this. This is the equivalent of like the Vortex battle, where you have to stop somebody from succeeding, sort of thing. So you could do this battle 4 times in your campaign, 1 for each of the Chaos Gods. Now what you end up doing is you capture, there's 3 capture points, you have to capture them 1 at a time. You capture 1 point, you get about 3,000 supply, and we'll come to supply in a minute. And then after you've captured it, they give you a few seconds, and then you have to defend that position. You have to defend it for a little bit. Wave after wave of enemies will come at you. Once you've done that, it'll open up the next area. Now, supplies are sort of like a resource that'll be just used in this battle here. And you get it from capturing points and from killing enemy forces. But there are basically 2 types of enemy forces that come at you. There are the wave forces, so the forces that will come in through there. Those are the ones that will give you the most supply. And then there's the unlimited wave. And I'll explain that a little bit when they start showing up. Now, in terms of how you spend your supplies, what I found was that you're not going to get enough supplies to build everything. There's a lot of stuff you can do with it, from calling in reinforcements, building barricades, building towers, upgrading your troops, healing your troops, getting more winds of magic, all that kind of stuff. And what I found really effective with my supplies was building towers. They were really effective. But not just any towers. You get 4 different types. So the tier 1 and tier 2 are arrow towers, and tier 3 and tier 4 are magic towers. Now, in this particular battle, I found the arrow towers to be more useful, but I suspect that when the game finally comes out and you guys get a chance to play it, that the magic towers might be better. Now, the reason for this is because these arrow towers are not individually doing much damage with each shot, but they're shooting really quickly and they're shooting quite accurately. Now, because the entities of each of these infantry units is so low, every single shot is killing someone. Now, with the magic shots, they were doing less accurate but more area of effect shots, and it was killing more of them per shot, but less of them in total because it just wasn't firing as fast. And since I was paying more supplies for it, I ended up going with the arrow towers, which is doing better. So what we're going to see here as well is some magic. This is another thing that I don't think is properly balanced, because it all just comes down to the enemy entity hit points. Because magic affects, especially these kind of spells, like this is just a standard vortex spell, kind of like a big plague. Anybody that's in there is taking the exact same amount of damage. So if it was like a normal campaign, these guys might lose, say, 60% of their health if they were stuck in there for the whole time. But because they have their health so significantly reduced, they are getting annihilated completely by the spell attack. Now, that spell there costs about 24 winds of magic. It's very powerful, but I imagine that it'll seem a lot less powerful when the game actually comes out. I do kind of get a feeling that magic might actually be a little bit less powerful in Warhammer 3 than in Warhammer 2. Because some of these spells were a little bit on the expensive side, and given the amount of like actual damage it was doing, I definitely think that some of the spells in Warhammer 2 seem a lot more powerful. So we'll have to see when things are actually properly balanced. But you're definitely going to look at this and think that the ice magic is super powerful. But again, the balancing it's got to be off on this. You'll also notice that our melee infantry just absolutely dominate these warriors of Khorne. I mean, it's on normal battle difficulty. I noticed that there weren't any, like, modifiers. Like, they don't have any leadership bonuses. But yeah, it's just their hit points. The guys are just absolutely ripping through them. Now, another thing to talk about in terms of supplies is, why am I not building barricades in this scenario here? Just the towers. Well, you could build the barricades, and maybe on higher difficulties, it might be worth it to build the barricades. But what I found is that it only slowed them down by a little bit. And that my supplies were better spent increasing the damage that I was doing rather than slowing them down. So picking more units to come out and getting the towers just had a higher value, especially because we were going up against Khorne. Khorne has like no missile units. These towers never got attacked, so they stayed for the entirety of the survival battle, which will continue on for a little bit. We're only 46% of the way through wave 1. Now, what we've just done there is given my unit an upgrade, the Streltsy. So it's a gun unit. We've seen what gun units can do in Warhammer 2. They can be very strong. And what it did is a very powerful upgrade, which gave them extra range, extra missile damage. Now, when their ammunition is low, you can spend supplies to recover their ammunition. And also, if they get killed completely, they return to your recruit pool, and you can revive them essentially, and they come back with all of the upgrades. So the upgrades that you spend, I did find were actually quite valuable, especially on the missile units, just because you really want to get the most out of every shot, because it costs supplies to replenish it. And missile units do seem like it's going to be very powerful. If I had to guess, what we're seeing here with Warhammer 3, I mean, it's still early days, I don't know for certain. But I feel like it's going to be magic, missiles, and monsters are the meta once again, which I don't have a problem with, but based on what I'm seeing here, I do not think that melee infantry and cavalry are going to play a dominant role in Warhammer 3 on higher difficulties. Because you can see that the melee infantry are slow moving, they're not the ones dishing out the damage, and archers are, fairly basic archers are ripping right through them, and magic, even though, their entity entity health has been reduced, it's still very powerful. So we'll just have to wait and see in terms of balancing. Now, in terms of Kislev's roster at this stage, it's all still pretty basic with, you know, archers, melee infantry, cavalry, gunners. But they're going to get some more interesting stuff as we go on through the battle. So as we kill them, you can see that we just keep getting supplies. Now, what I also found in this battle was that it seemed to be somewhat random how much supplies you'd actually get. Like, I went through this battle quite a few times, and I took note of like the first few units that we killed, where before you could spend any supplies, and I would have a different number of supplies each time. So I think that had something to do with the disintegration of units for demons, which I suppose I should tell you about. Demons are basically like the undead. Once they have low leadership, they disintegrate, just like what you see there with those bloodletters. They disintegrate, and just like what we've seen with undead. They don't rout. The warriors of Khorne and the hounds, they rout. So if they disintegrate, I don't think you get supplies. You have to actually be the one to kill their units if you want to get those supplies. So you can get a bit random with the demons. You actually want to be the one to inflict the final blow, not the crumbling. So here we'll have a pretty big charge come in at their rear, which will seem pretty satisfying as it crushes them. But one thing I noticed when this little engagement happened, a whole bunch of them breaks. Just warriors of Khorne there. And we're in a bit of a mosh pit of about 4 or 5 units of our guys trying to run down 6 of theirs. And this is something that's a bit of an issue in Warhammer 3, but the more units that get clumped in to attack a routing unit, the harder it is for them to run it down. That seems to pretty much be the case in Warhammer 3 as well. So what I'm basically trying to get at, in terms of how combat functions, if you know how to play Warhammer 2, I think you're going to pick up Warhammer 3 really easy. I don't think they're reinventing the wheel here, which is totally fine. Battles in Warhammer 2 are amazing, so I got no complaints. But there are little things where, see, they're still running down those units, and they haven't really done any damage. Really, the best way to run a unit down is just to have one unit chase after it, so I just have to pull them out, because all I'm doing there is causing friendly fire with my own towers there, I'm not actually doing anything. So what we'll see is like big mosh pits where enemy generals might rout, but then you can't kill them because units are just really bad at running down enemy units. Where missile units are actually good at killing them. So yeah, in terms of just how every unit works, like from a functionality point of view, it seems more or less the same as Warhammer 2, which again, I don't have a problem with. Now that we've finished wave 1, we've got some forces coming down from the second control point, and they're going to attack us soon, and then we'll be able to go and actually capture the second point ourselves. Now, when I was playing this, I made a point to try to hold on to all 3 positions, but you don't have to. You're actually the attacker in this situation, not the defender. Sort of. So all you need to really do, the objective is to capture the third one. You have to capture the first and second one only temporarily. So if we wanted to, we could push our entire force to go and capture the second position and just let this one get taken. Now the thing is, for every capture point that they have, there's a debuff being put on our units. So I didn't find that debuffs were that big of a deal, but then again, it might be because it's on super duper easy baby mode. Maybe on higher difficulties, these debuffs would be quite significant. But yeah, you don't have to hold on to all 3 positions. It's the third one you're going for, and even once you've captured the third one, you don't have to hold on to it for too long. It's all just about, the whole goal of this is to get to the gatekeeper and kill that dude. Which, when we get to him, he's basically the only unit in this entire Khorne force that isn't nerfed. But yeah, we'll get to him pretty soon. So as you can see, yeah, those demons just stand absolutely no chance against us, and they've got physical resistances as well. So they shouldn't when the game properly comes out go down this easily to basic Kossars. So imagine Kossars are kind of like your basic archers, maybe tier 1 or tier 2. Used up a lot of ammo there, but it only cost me like 100 supplies to recover 50% of their ammo. It's pretty good. And they've got the upgrade there, so they'll get the most out of it. You gotta make sure every shot counts. So I set up a position up there with the guns and the Tsar Guard, which are the melee infantry, to hold back the unlimited wave. So the guys that are coming in now from the bottom of the map, that's the unlimited wave. These guys do not give much supplies, but these ones here, these ones give plenty of supplies. Once they're gone, and what I did in one of my campaigns, one of my tries of this, I sat here for quite a while and just tried to farm supplies, but after about 2 minutes, no more supplies came in, and so you're sort of encouraged to move on to the second wave. The longer you sit here dilly-dallying around, the weaker you're going to get. And even though most of their forces barely made it to me, every shot and every hit point that we lost was something that wasn't being able to recover. So I would say that don't dick around in this area. Get moving onto the second spot. Well, yeah, just keep moving the entire time. But if you don't want to hold on to this position, you totally don't have to. I think what I was doing when I was doing this was just getting my head around exactly what to do. And then just go right in there. So Katarin's got a whole bunch of spells. She's got her entire spell list there. But I think one of them's a direct damage spell, sort of like a Fate of Bijuna. We have that Ice Bomb spell, which was like really good vortex spell. I think it was worth like 24 Winds of Magic. Another thing to consider as well is that in this particular battle here, the maximum amount of magic that we could store up was actually 120, and there was unlimited magic reserves. But that might just be because this is a special battle. So again, there's so much in this battle here that should be taken with a pinch of salt if you're looking for how the game is going to play on the campaign map for like most battles. What we're seeing here is really like, this is an exhibition match. This is like something special, but not the norm. So, you know, this isn't how your multiplayer battles are going to play out. This isn't how your single player battles are going to play out. In fact, what I'm playing here, it might be a completely different experience to what you guys play, and probably will be. Because yeah, like I said, seeing those units be as weak as they are, it seemed off. So it seems like what they've done here, those are Kossars. Like the archers that I've got in the front there in the control group 2, those are Kossars, and these new ones here, these are Kossars with spears. So these are probably like the tier 3 variant. These are functionally identical to Lothern Seaguard. They are archers that also are spearmen. So if you know how to use Lothern Seaguard, that's basically them. Which I don't have a problem with. That's fine. Start getting more interesting units come in around tier 3. That's when we start getting the really interesting ones. And I don't think I've seen their full roster yet. So they might have more still to come. And then of course there will be DLC. Let's be real. Which will probably give them even more interesting units. So yeah, we're still gaining some supplies from these guys here, but it's barely anything, and eventually you stop getting them all together. So when we capture this point here, each capture point is worth 3,000 supplies. My advice is, assuming the balancing stays the same, is build the towers straight away. Towers are really good. I feel like I got a lot of value out of them. Because it's unlimited ammo and they don't target them. They don't get destroyed. They only get destroyed if the enemy captures your position, then all the towers and buildings in that area get destroyed. Alright, we got a new hero type here. I think this guy was called a Patriarch. He's like a non-spellcaster. Support hero. He doesn't use Winds of Magic, but he's got a really cool ability that gives him like an area of effect healing. It's kind of like the Tomb King ability that's at the end of the red line, Reanimate upgraded, which just gives you tons of healing. There's no limit to how many entities it can heal, and doesn't cost any Winds of Magic. Now, I went through one run not building any towers, and it was way more difficult. Like, the towers made a big difference. So in that particular run, I tried just like hiring loads of units, And it didn't go as well as this one, so the towers were definitely good. At least in this case here. So that's the healing amount. Doesn't say exactly how much it heals, but it was a significant amount. It's not going to bring any units back from the dead, but it can heal those that are still alive. So yeah, the one over there, their names there, for both Katarine and the hero, I think it actually shows us what level they are. We still don't have any confirmation if level 40 or level 50 is actually going to be the new level cap. I still feel like it's going to be level 50, but we don't know yet. So we got some units coming here from Khorne. These are, I think, Blood Crushers. So these are the Bloodthirsters riding those Juggernaut type horses. Those mechanical, slow moving, really strong units. But of course, because they've got like really low health, they're not really lasting very long. And Khorne is really not well designed for dealing with choke points, since everything he's got is melee troops. All you gotta do is hold these choke points in and just mass obliterate all of his units. Also, in terms of how the AI behaves, it doesn't seem to be much different than in Warhammer 2. Like, the AI with their melee units just charge in. They're just really aggressive, and they have no problem with just blobbing up, allowing us to just do tons and tons of damage to them like this. Of course, in a choke point situation, what more can they do? So my Cossars are going to take a pretty big charge there, but don't take too many casualties. Only lost one. But if that's an indication of how cavalry perform, that's not really a great sight, because those are supposed to be really hard-hitting cavalry, and that didn't do very much to us. Because I don't think their actual damage output has been nerfed here, just their health. And I mean, they got a full frontal charge in on my Cossars, and they killed one. You know, like a high tier cavalry unit smashed into a low tier archer. Killed one. Pop down that healing. So yeah, just to reiterate, if you're looking at the balancing on this and thinking that Khorne's weak, we'll have to wait for other battles and gameplay to come out. This can't be considered what the balancing is going to be, right? So wave 2 is almost over, getting plenty of supplies, picking up more troops. And the thing is, you really want to be making sure that you're gaining a lot and losing as little as possible supplies worth of stuff, because it's all just about building up for the final wave. The final wave can be quite difficult. Like, I remember when I was in the Discord, looking at what everyone else was saying about the battle, all the Total War guys were like doing various degrees of success. Like most of them were doing really well, but the media people were requiring multiple tries just to win it. That's what I saw anyway. I didn't like spy on too much, but I did see that some of the media people were like, I'll try it again, maybe I'll win this time, sort of thing. Which is fair enough. Like, it gets pretty crazy. I can understand why CA made it significantly easier. Like I said, this is supposed to be the final battle. You know, to throw a newbie in on legendary difficulty on the final battle, on the final game in a trilogy, yeah, that's not going to go down well. Can you imagine all the articles? I played Warhammer 3. It was too hard. I couldn't win wave 1. I'm curious to see what they're going to write in their articles about this as well. I suspect they're going to be like, oh, it was really challenging. All these really dangerous units were coming at us. Oh, it was so hard. And all the Total War guys were like, this is easy. So we'll see what happens. We'll see what they say about it. Alright, so what we're seeing here, this is a Bloodthirster. This is actually one of the more interesting units, obviously. So this is a Bloodthirster unit. So they're not just lords. I think they're lords and heroes. So this is like a lesser Bloodthirster. Now, unfortunately for this Bloodthirster here, it's going to seem a little bit sad because he dies pretty quickly. You can see that he had about 3/4 health, and he had 2,000 health remaining, so he just doesn't have much going for him there. I imagine that when the game is properly balanced, I'll probably have something like 12 to 15,000 health. So yeah, that Bloodthirster isn't gonna last very long. He's just about gone. I didn't even really worry about him, so he's gone. But yeah, at the end of this battle, there is a Bloodthirster Lord, and that guy is actually terrifying. But we'll get to him. Like an actual named Bloodthirster. No one from the lore or anything. We don't know who the legendary lords for Khorne are yet. Originally I thought it was Skarbrand or Ka'Bandha, but it seems like the generic Bloodthirster Lord just looks like Ka'Bandha, but I don't think Ka'Bandha is coming yet anyway. It's much more likely to be somebody a bit more unique, like Valkyr, but I don't know. So I got a unit of archers basically fighting a Khorne berserker. I shouldn't have left them there, but they weren't really causing me too much trouble. So I called in some more Tsar Guard. I felt like the Tsar Guard were really good. But then again, normal difficulty, and I think these guys are like equivalent to pretty much greatswords. I feel like they're going to be tier 4. I mean, I don't know. But I feel like they're going to be tier 4. They seem to perform at about tier 4 level. Really sturdy infantry unit. But not tier 5, because I feel like there's a better infantry unit that'll come soon.
Hearts of ice.
Who knows, maybe they'll be tier 3. Don't know. Now, thing to note about the second wave area here, you don't actually need to leave anybody defending the second one if you're leaving people to defend the first one, because no waves of Khorne, like the unlimited waves, come through this area. They all come from the very bottom. So you would only need to defend this if you've abandoned the first one. Now, I also found in later playthroughs of this, because I was able to play it a few times, that I only needed to leave 2 units of Tsar Guard there for like the entirety of the battle. So I left way too much force here. Because I was under the impression that at some point a significant amount of force was going to come through here to try to retake it, but it just never did. Because like those Streltsy, the gun units, they would have been very useful at taking down the Bloodthirster that we're going to be fighting in a little bit. Because, you know, the units that we're fighting here, like this one's got like 1,000 health, but that Bloodthirster that we're going to go up against, the final one, you'll see how much health it has. Yeah, I won't spoil it just yet, but it's a lot. It's a lot of health. I mean, it'd be pretty silly if the final boss, even for like a super baby easy mode, could be taken down in like a couple of shots. Alright, so here we've got a little Grom. This is their artillery. So, I'm sure there's going to be lots of Grom the Paunch jokes. But no, it does not shoot little versions of Grom the Paunch. They're just pretty standard sort of cannon, single entity ones. So imagine this is a sort of unit that would perform really well on smaller unit scales, and I believe that this is actually on ultra unit scale, because the general rule of thumb is for heavy cavalry to have 60 units, on large unit scale 45, and so on and so forth. But we were only ever able to play on 1 unit scale, so I wasn't able to test out if units perform differently on different unit scales, which is something that I'll do when I get the chance, but we're not at that stage yet. Also, I have no idea if, when you get to place on the campaign map, whether, like, you can decide what army you can actually bring and you just slowly bring it in throughout the battle, or you have a preset and you always have to have this kind of army. I have no idea. I hope that you can actually prepare for this final fight, like, and, you know, bring your own troops and whatnot, not just have this preset stuff. So, this is something that we'll have to test when I actually get a chance to play the actual campaign, which I think we're a little while away from that yet. I actually really regretted getting those little Groms because they ran out of ammunition pretty quickly. They were quite inaccurate, and they did tons of damage, but because everything's got low entity health, I only needed arrows to kill them, so it felt like overkill. And replenishing their ammo was quite expensive, and they were vulnerable to Bloodthirsters. So I just felt that my money, or my supplies, was better spent on just getting more Kossars and Streltsies. So yeah, another important thing is don't just send one unit to capture this. You want to make sure your entire army is ready before you land there, because as soon as we capture that point, Khorne on wave 3, pretty damn significant. Things are going to get crazy now. Basically, the first 2 waves are just like training. Just to basically build up your supplies, try not to spend too much. And then wave 3 and 4, that's when you put to the test there. So yeah, at this point I got the hint that nobody was coming up this way. I probably should have destroyed the towers at tier 2 as well. Capture point, because you can demolish them for like 75% of what you paid for it. Because yeah, you got to be pretty careful with your supplies. You can't just spend them willy-nilly.
Taking point. Kislevites moving. On the march.
It is so.
And also the wave 3 area is like the least defensible because there's like no choke points here. They got way more ways of getting in. So this was the hard one. Like tier 2 was probably the easiest because there was only really 2 ways to get in. And it was just easy to slaughter them.
The greatest of the motherland's champions.
We fight for Ulson. Hussars! Wherever Ursun asks.
So at this point here we've gotten rid of all the debuffs. And if we hold on to it, then I get that back. See, I never bothered to get any of the barricades, just didn't find it valuable.
On the march! Hussars! Taking position!
Also, I thought the music was fairly good. Commenting on aesthetics is not really something that I'm particularly good at, but I thought all the units looked really good. It was difficult to get close-ups when everything was just a blur for me, so I really just tried to focus on doing well on the battle. I think we saw on the other side. Oh yeah, there it is. They've got some skull cannons of Khorne. I found that they were also a piece of crap because they didn't have much ammo. They were really inaccurate. Like, watch this next shot here. Completely missed. They just don't have ammunition to spare. So it'd be good against a whole blob of units, but aside from that, not so good. Alright, here we go. Now we're getting something interesting. Single entity big old monster here. The elemental bear. So this is basically like a... I guess it's kind of like a Dreadsaurian in terms of how strong it is. Probably a little bit weaker. It's only got 10,000 health. But it's also got a pretty cool breath attack that it can do 3 times. But I imagine that the Doomstack for Kislev, if Doomstacks are going to be viable in Warhammer 3, which we don't know yet, is pretty much going to be these elemental bears and a bunch of Patriarchs. So the Patriarchs sit there healing and giving them leadership buffs, and the bears just wreck everything. So yeah, this third wave here, a little bit more dangerous than the ones that came before it. We're actually going to see some of our units actually get wiped out now. But any unit that gets wiped out can be brought back and will retain its experience and any upgrades that you spent on it. If you're willing to spend the supplies to revive them, that is.
The ice queen. The
So I had a bit too much Winds of Magic stored up there. Disrupted me on that spell. So that bounce spell is pretty powerful as well. It's just like a big ice explosion.
For the motherland! Taking point! Stay on!
So, yep, I cast it on my own unit as well, but it didn't seem to do much friendly fire. I don't know if we were completely immune from friendly fire as part of how that spell actually works, or whether our entity health was so much higher than the enemies that the damage actually wasn't that high in the first place. It's just that they're so much weaker than us. And here we got some Bear Cav, which I thought they were okay. They're pretty much on the tier of like Minotaurs. Coming in groups of 16, so stronger than say Great Stag Cavalry. But I didn't think they were like the strongest thing ever. Then the Skull Cannon actually comes into melee, which I didn't find it particularly good, but you know, they're doing what they want to do. Because it ran out of ammo. I definitely didn't see it worth it to like try to snipe it before it used up its ammo. Like we can see that it only had 19 kills, and that's after it came into melee as well. That one got 16 kills. So yeah, Skull Cannon's kind of shit. At least in this instance here. So you can see I can bring back some of the guys that have already been wiped out. And here we've got probably the highest tier infantry unit. I think they're called the Ice Guard or something. I didn't quite catch their name. So these are they're a missile unit, but I think they're short range missiles. And then they go into melee with these ice glaives. But they were very strong. But yeah, I found that in Warhammer 2, units, infantry units that have combined uses, such iron Ironbreakers, are way more valuable than just standard melee infantry. So here we are going up against the final boss of this match. We're not exactly in the best shape because it comes straight after the wave 3. And this is where I really wish that I had spent a bit more, brought more of my guys from the first one up, because I've just completely forgotten about that, and I got like 6 units down there. 6 units doing nothing. Now that Bloodthirster there, that's a Lord. You can see he's at about rank 10. He has about 22,000 health. So he'll take a while to take down. You see the Skull Cannon shooting us over there. It's just not doing any damage. It's giving Katerin a bit of a hard time. So that does quite a lot of damage, that ice explosion. I'll eventually learn all the names, I've still got to get used to them all. Quite a lot of Bloodthirsters. But I guess the thing about that Bloodthirster Lord is that he certainly does have a lot of health, but he didn't seem to be particularly good at killing like mass numbers of units. Like, because those guys fighting them there, they held them off for quite a long time. And Bloodthirster over there taking out the, trying to take out the little Grom, and not succeeding. So that guy, that Tsar Guard, came back with all of his experience.
The Queen marches. Greatest of witches.
Definitely could have been better on the magic use. Having this much winds of magic at this point here was a bit excessive. I really needed to spend more of it.
The people's ruler!
But as I said, it was a bit frantic, and it was also really blurry. Yeah, those skull cannons, I don't know about those. I think they need to be buffed a bit. They seem a bit crap. But maybe they were just debuffed for the battle. Otherwise it was too difficult for them, I don't know. Now we got plenty of forces here. And most of this final wave is getting torn to pieces. Yeah, the final wave is pretty much over. We just gotta take out that actual final boss. So I can imagine that if all of their other units had their full amount of health, that final wave would have been very difficult to handle. Oh yeah, there's some chaos spawn there as well. So yeah. So Khorne's roster, like, I don't think it's going to be a surprise to anyone, but I'm not super impressed with what I've seen so far. The thing I like most is probably the Bloodthirsters, but like the Warriors of Khorne, the Blood Crushers of Khorne, their Furies of Khorne, the Blood Letters, kind of shit. At least from what I've seen so far. We'll see how things go when we get a battle that's actually, that we can actually utilize Khorne's full strength. But he seems to be way too heavily melee focused in a game that it doesn't seem like it's going to be too focused on melee. I don't know. So there the Bloodthirster Lord goes down, and that's the end of the battle.
My brave Kislevites, we stand triumphant. But Khorne is not the only dark god with a realm in this accursed place. The battle is won, but the war goes on. Come. We must continue our search for what is lost.
So victory here would essentially mean that Khorne is destroyed on the campaign, and then that would just be the end of that, and you would, if you haven't already, go and take out the other Chaos Gods, or maybe you only need to do one to get campaign victory, hard to say. But anyway, that's the end of that battle, but this is what we can do. I should be live streaming at the time of this video coming out. I'm sure that you guys will have a ton of questions. So what you can do is, if you want to know more about the battle and have specific questions, feel free to come to the live stream. That should be active right now, at least for the next 3 hours after this video is released. And I can actually show you some more footage of what I've got. Some close-ups of things, some other attempts, and some of the exploits that I was trying to do, and some of the things that actually didn't work, that currently work in Warhammer 2, such as the unlimited magic exploit, that kind of stuff that seems to have been fixed. I did try out a bunch of... I tried to exploit this as much as possible in many of the other attempts of this that I did, but I couldn't find any. So you're all welcome to come and ask me some questions, and hopefully you've enjoyed what you've seen. But I would say at this point here, this is not an accurate representation of what Warhammer 3 is going to be looking like. This is a taste, but I think I'm really hungry to see some more stuff that's actually going to be representative of what we're going to see in Warhammer 3, not just visually, but how things are actually going to play out in terms of gameplay, in terms of campaign mechanics, how units are actually going to be properly balanced on higher difficulties, that kind of stuff, which this battle here definitely failed to represent. Anyway, that's the end of this one. Appreciate you guys, and I'll see you next time, fuckers. Bye.